Good morning, everybody. This is Judith A. Cope. You're listening to Mad Love. Let's get into it. The podcast yesterday really struck a chord with me. It got, you know, quite a few listens, even on YouTube. And this is not a humongous podcast. We are not Joe Rogan numbers. So, I notice when people start listening to certain topics. But yeah, I mean, for me, uh, I, at my age now, it's very big. I'm at a big age, and I spent a good portion of my 20s really toiling to try to get into the film industry. And my parents were very supportive. I mean, they were as supportive as they could be. They definitely weren't like, here's $20,000, go make your dreams come true. Um, they were pretty frustrated that I was spending my days doing something that looked a lot like sitting around. But I was writing. I'm a writer, so I would spend my days after I graduated. I really committed to being a screenwriter, and yeah, they didn't really get it. And back then, you'd have to, you know, when I started, you had to type the thing. You had to type. I had to teach myself the margins on a typewriter to type a script out, and that would be like 130 pages with these very specific margins and stage directions, and it was work, and it was laborious. And then I moved to I think we had a computer in our house sometime in the early 90s, but you could still like completely delete your whole project on the thing. And I did that once, and that really hurt. I lost a whole script, and that was brutal. And I think we were using floppy disks and stuff back then. But my parents were getting frustrated because I would finish a project, and then I'd talk to my friends in LA and other filmmaker friends, and then you'd have to pack up and go out to LA and try to pitch it. And so I did that for several years. I would say the bulk of my 20s. I'd be out there for 6 months to a year, come back, or I'd be out there for, a couple of weeks, go to some conferences, shake hands, get my script in front of people. One of my friends from high school, she was producing it. That's the closest we came, and people were really nice to us. A lot of people called me brilliant, told me I was great, but nobody would write us checks. And when I look back, I think, oh, okay, because in my script, there are college-educated black people. I had a black producer, one of the guys from Jackson McHenry Productions. I think he's passed away. I think Jackson. I think he died, but he was the one. I had a meeting with him. I think he was on the Warner lot, and I met with him, and he was the one that was pretty much like, your script is not realistic. Black people stab each other when they fight, so you need to put that in there. And I was like, why would I do that? These are college educated people. One is a Howard grad. Why would he be inclined? He's an attorney. That's his job. Like, why would he be out here trying to stab somebody? I was like, this is just a dumb business. And now that I look back at it, the gatekeepers were so solid, but that's how they got those roles, because they would allow somebody like that to have a production deal, because he was making Jason's Lyric and a bunch of other films that were about the hood, and hood politics and hood ethics, and it was almost like they didn't want anybody to have been college educated. If you think about it, the only movie I can think of where they talk about black college grads was The Best Man. They all met in college. They all graduated. They all had careers. That's the only one I can think of. And forgive me, I might be missing some, but There was an era in the 90s where there were a lot of black projects, movies made by black people, starring black people, for black people, but a lot of them were not, you know, aspirational. A lot of them were hood movies, things I didn't relate to because I didn't go to, I wasn't part of the hood. I didn't grow up in the hood. You know, all my friends were like me, middle class, working class, but middle class people who went to good schools and went to college and graduated and got jobs. My friends were more like the best men, the best man cast, not boys in the hood. You know what I mean? So there was this stretch where like all the movies were kind of like that. And so then you get all of these gatekeepers, and I'm thinking when you tell a college educated young lady that her script needs to have a knife fight in it, not a knife fight between, you know, two drunk people in a bar, or, you know, a knife fight between a couple that are both inebriated or high on drugs or something. You want two college educated professionals to fight and somebody pull a knife on the other one. That's insane. And that's how he got his deal, because they would agree to make movies like that. And that's how you get a Tyler Perry, because he would be like, you know what? That is exactly right. Let me get a knife fight in here. And you know why? Because that's the world he comes from. Or a world that he can conceptualize. I can't conceptualize that. I am a big age, like I said, and I have never ever had a fight with a knife involved. I can disagree with a whole bunch of people about a whole bunch of things, and we never pulled knives on one another. So that's what I'm saying. It's so systemic. Like, this is deeply rooted in the idea that the people who have the purse strings to make the movies, and we're talking about 90s prices, we were trying to get something like $10 million, which, yes, to me and you, that's a lot of money. But to a studio, that's not a lot of money. You give us a budget of $10 million, you market the film, we could probably get it to 75 million. That's a hit at the box office, and maybe it takes off. If we do it really well, we can really recoup that money. But they just didn't want to support that vision. I feel like many people, the way they were reacting to me, I could see that they saw the vision. They just didn't want to be the people that put it out, because why have multiple stories where black people are in love and college educated? You know, why would you do that when you could have one or two? They really created that system, and when you pull back and you look at it, you can see. And now they've moved almost entirely into period pieces and slave pieces. Because say what you want about Sinners, it's a period piece. They don't want to make movies with black people living contemporary lives. That is more than obvious. You might get a Netflix show, or you might get an HBO show, but you're not going to have a whole bunch of movies where black people are sophisticated, interesting. You know, it's crazy. I think the best cast show for diversity was Billions. They had a lot of different ethnic groups represented, and a lot of strong roles for women. Condola Rashad was fantastic. I don't know that there's a better written black female character than Kate Sacker. She was very interesting. And it's like, when's the last time you saw that in a theater? Where a black woman entered the screen, was articulate, savvy, sophisticated, she was raised with money. They act like that we don't exist. And that's why this system has fallen apart. And the other thing that's weird to me is, why does a studio like Warner's have to be bought up by Paramount? Why isn't Warner Brothers solvent on its own anymore? What's happening? Have you over leveraged these fucking comic book movies? And Batman, is that like all you guys know how to produce now? If it's not a big, $1 billion film, you don't know what to do with it? That was always going to fail. You need good stories. And you don't have to like my stories, but you need good stories to keep a studio afloat. And that's why I'm encouraged, because indies have got to come back. Because there's no way a studio can continue to thrive if they only make $1 billion projects. You know? And they give those shitty, terrible notes. I'm telling you, man, this whole system is collapsing. And now we're starting to see the propaganda arm. And now I can just see so clearly all of these bizarre conversations I was having around my script 30 years ago. And it was like, oh, this was by design. And they make you feel like, everybody's going to tell you you're brilliant and smart if your script is halfway decent, because they don't know who's going to take a flyer on you. They don't know that, if you get turned down. Everybody's heard the story about Home Alone. Somebody at Warner Brothers turned down Home Alone. And it went to, I want to say Columbia Pictures at the time, and it became this phenomenon, and the person who said no got fired. So they never want to say no or tell you your script's terrible, because they don't know if your story's going to go and be a hit somewhere else, and they get fired for missing it. But I'm telling you, I was out there long enough to know that the people that they hire at these studios, they don't want you to be successful. They're not creative people. They are mostly Nepo babies, but they're also trying to keep their jobs. They get these VP jobs. They make 200, 300, 400, probably more, $100,000 a year, adjusted for inflation. And they get paid to keep the agenda, which is, low risk, high reward. And as the stakes have gotten higher, low risk, slave movie. High reward, we look like we're good people because we care about telling historical stories about the enslaved in America. Well, motherfucker, you know what? Thanks, but I'm not a slave. It's not like I went out and hung out with all my uncles and aunts who were slaves. You know what I mean? Like, tell contemporary stories. And I don't like that the number one black movie is called Sinners and has a demonic element to it and is a period piece. And good for them. I'm happy that they are successful. Don't get me wrong. I do think Michael B. Jordan has made it clear, though, that he is not a Christian and is part of some other religion. But hey, I want to say Ifa. I don't know, and he's like a prince or something in it, or a priest or something in it. So good for them. I'm glad that they're successful. But think about it. You've got Tyler Perry, Ryan Coogler. Can you name right now another working successful black director? I can't think of one in film. And then if you go to TV, you got Shonda. Tyler Perry has put himself in TV, but I honestly, no disrespect to him, his business acumen is admirable. I would love to wake up and say, I'm going to make a movie about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and just do it. That's the power he has. But I don't like the stories Tyler Perry chooses to tell. And somehow, he's worked himself so hard, I don't know that the quality has improved. It feels like it's gone down. And that was already going to be challenging, because he likes to tell the same stories over and over again. And I'm not trying to get any smoke. I respect what he's done as a businessman. But the quality of his movies, those aren't stories I would tell. And the fact that he's been allowed, and yes, he's been allowed to put those kind of projects out on a loop over and over and over again for the last 20 something years. As a business person, that's admirable. As a creative, I don't get it. But they put him in place for a reason. They allowed him to be out here. They've silenced certain voices. Would Spike Lee have a career if it was supposed to start today? No. No. I mean, this is very fascinating stuff. And I'm not saying that I'm a genius and I should have the biggest career in the world, but I should have. I should have. I'm a good writer. And I'm not a bragging person, but I do know I have a talent at telling stories. They just didn't want to tell my type of stories. And I think, it's very fascinating, the stuff that when you look at it through a different lens and you pull back and you say, well, if they didn't want to make a movie about professional, upper middle class, sophisticated black people, and yet they opted to make this certain type of movie over and over and over again for the last 20 years, and go back even further than that, you go back to the last 30 years, there was a small window where black film was a thing. And that's when I emerged into, the working world, and I picked my major. I fell in love with movies. I fell in love with film. I fell in love with directors. There was a time I knew every director. I knew what they were working on. I could talk about their catalog, and now I very rarely know who directed something. It's sad. It's sad. But now when you realize it's just all been propaganda, it can make you sad, and then it should make you a little mad. And then now, you should also be encouraged, because all of that is finally coming down. And now there won't be gatekeepers like that. You can build an ecosystem, and as long as you don't sell out, your projects will be your projects. But you cannot sell out. All these little organic companies you think are so great, and you try their products in the grocery store and they taste so good and fresh, and then they sell so much and then they sell out. Then all of a sudden, some big conglomeration owns your favorite organic company, and they started cutting corners, and it's not as healthy as it used to be, and it's not as tasty as it used to be, and they're not using the best ingredients like they used to. If you don't sell out, you can make a decent amount of money and have an ecosystem that belongs to you and tell the stories that you want to tell without selling out. Because I'm telling you what, nothing is worse than having a great project and you get a bunch of dumb studio notes on it. And I know it's hard to be encouraged right now because it looks like nobody knows what they're doing. And I'm not kidding. From the federal government to the local government to your boss, it feels like a lot of people just are not prepared for leadership. They don't know how to lead other people. And they don't care about leading other people, especially politicians. At this point, nobody in politics seems to be concerned, except for Thomas Massey and maybe Ro Khanna. No one else seems to be concerned about people and how we're going to maneuver and survive these truly interesting times. I don't even know where I want to say desperate, but it's not desperate. This is what people signed up for. And I keep seeing all these posts about people having buyer's remorse. I don't know why you thought Trump was going to be different. I'm not sure why you could look at his body of work as a human and be like, he's the one. You know what I mean? There's nothing about him that's remarkable. He's highly interesting, but he's a liar and a con man. Look up Roy Cohn. That's his mentor. And Roy Cohn was vacuous and evil. And, I don't get it. I'm telling you, you can look across all areas of the world right now and wonder if anybody's a good leader of people. And, I can't tell you how disappointed I am in all these people want to be your boss, but they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know how to manage a team or a staff, and they're demoralizing the people that they do have because they don't have a vision. And St. Louis is a great example of a city without any vision. Nobody here seems to know what they're doing. And these are wonderful, hardworking, amazing people. I love being from St. Louis, but do I want to stay living here? I don't think I can anymore. Like, emotionally, it's really difficult to keep your hopes up for decades. Like, now we gonna get it. Yeah, now we gonna, here we go. And then it's just like, wah, wah, like over and over and over again. And these are lovely people. Some of my favorite people I met in St. Louis. I loved growing up here. It was such a fun, interesting city. And we were always an underdog to Chicago. And the St. Louis Cardinals are an amazing baseball organization. The best. You know, I watched the Rams go from like worst to first, and then they destroyed that. You know, they've taken 2 football teams from us. Like, St. Louis is legitimately a city without a captain. And the problem is you count on politicians, but we got so many of them going to jail, going to like prison. I'm sorry. They're not just going to the jail. They're going to prison. So anyway, I hope St. Louis gets it together, but I won't be here for it. I really can't stick around anymore. And it's been lovely. My mom loved this place. But she gone. And so it's time to do what I came here to do. And I'm saying all this to say, I think the film industry is about to undergo some ginormous changes. And it's not going to be what everybody has known it to be for the last, 150 years, however many years it's been. But I'm excited to be a part of the new thing. It's going to be new. It's better. And it'll be diverse in storytelling, because the storytellers will finally be allowed to speak, not just the 40 or 50 chosen ones. And now I think it's less than that. I think they only allow 1 or 2 per thing. Like, look at all the great filmmakers that aren't even working now, you know, and a lot of them are aging out. And this is actually what happened before. You know, when all the Busby Berkeley musicals and all those big 40s and 50s, well, the 40s were a lot of women with a lot of power in movies. And then they moved to musicals, and then those stopped making money, and film just sort of fell apart. And then you got that window in the late 60s and 70s where people were just ready to start telling more quote-unquote realistic stories. And so that's when you got Spielberg and Scorsese and Brian De Palma and Francis Ford Coppola, and this sort of dramatic narrative, complete, like Midnight Cowboy, like completely different than the 50s and Busby Berkeley type movies. So it's another renaissance, but this one's going to take, and it's going to be great. And I look forward to being one of the architects of that. Have an amazing weekend. Please take care of yourselves. It's Friday, May 15th. Be well, be safe. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it all the way through, you're a real one, and I appreciate it. And I expect to see you buying tickets to my movies. Okay, talk to you later. Have a great weekend. Oh, new Refuel out Sunday. Don't forget to sign up. Link in the show description. Bye.